All
Yep.
right, so first let me
That,
just introduce everybody. If you've never been here before, this is actually the 10th episode of a talk show series I've been doing for the past, I guess, 6 months or so called The Hype, where basically I just interview North American players and I try to gain more insight into the pro scene, give you folks a little bit more information than what you might get from just watching the tournaments or things of that nature. Just get like more information. But this is a little bit different with this episode. Basically, my goal with this episode and the next three is basically just to do like a pre-ESEA LAN interview with all of the teams from North America that are attending that I know of for sure at this point. Of course, it's guaranteed that compLexity goes with the 4 seed, Netcode at the 3rd seed, Jumas, or I guess OEF right now, open equal free for the 2nd seed, then NaVi Power with the 1st seed. So I'm going to interview all those 4 teams hopefully within the next 2 weeks. And just kind of get like a pre-ESEA LAN take on how they're preparing for the event, how things are going beforehand, what lays in the future afterwards, and things of that nature. So basically, to introduce myself, I'm just Dustin Red. I've been streaming and commentating Counter-Strike for like 7 years, CSGO since beta, stream every night basically. So if you haven't seen me before, hello. Semphis, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm compLexity Semphis. Been playing CS:GO since Alpha on arguably the number 1 or 2 CS:GO team the entire time in North America at least, and I played 1.6 an invite for like 10 seasons before that. So yeah, I've been around for a while.
Right. So in the past, I usually always do like a player history of the player that I'm interviewing, but I know Semphis is a little pressed for time, so I don't want to get like too deep into his 1.6 past. As far as his CS:GO history up until this point goes, in all honesty, I think I've pretty much covered compLexity's history pretty well. I've interviewed Sean, Hiko, and Jordan like over the past few months, so check out some of those past episodes if you want like a really in-depth compLexity history from like the Area 51 days to the present. So I'm really just going to kind of focus on the most recent past and ask him some questions based on that and just kind of seeing how compLexity is going into the ESEA LAN. So my first question is actually going to tie directly into the interview I did with Hiko just a few weeks ago. And when we did this interview, it was literally the day after, or a couple of days after, the whole swag anger trade that took place between you guys and NaVi Power. And so it
Hmm.
was like fresh information. It was new. You guys didn't even really know what was going on yet. So it was kind of hard to really make any conclusions or get any real information out of that whole deal. But now I think there's been enough time to kind of reflect on it because you guys have been playing together now for a couple of months, I guess. So how has adjusting gone for you folks since the trade?
I mean, do you just mean in terms of like in-game, like playing and stuff, like roles and stuff? Because obviously things didn't work out. I mean, they still haven't been like perfect. I mean, we've been good enough to compete, I think, and I definitely think my team has always been a bit better on LAN than we have been online. That's just a track record of compLexity in general. But yeah, I definitely think losing Brax was a weird shakeup for us, just because Anger wasn't really a gay type of player like Brax is. Like Brax is really good, but his play style is really unique. Not many people play like him. He doesn't just fight people head on. He'll show you his leg. He'll put it behind a wall. He'll make you shoot. Then he'll come out and kill you. Like there's a lot of little things that he does, and he likes to lurk more than Anger. So there was a little bit of a gap missing in our team because you couldn't really just throw Anger into Brax's roles, which is something that like obviously you'd like to do, to just be like, here, go and play all of Brax's spots and all. So we had to switch a lot of spots on CT, have to change roles around on T. In general, that shouldn't have been as big of a deal as it was, but you combine that with us not playing that much and just, I want to say, slumping in general, kind of made us look worse than we were. And then you also have to take into consideration that when Brax originally joined compLexity, or we formed compLexity at the start, we kind of sucked there too. We went 2-4 in invite at the start of our first season with Brax, yeah, in ESEA, and we also, and it only even we ended up getting first seed in invite that season, but we got a forfeit win on Nuke over Iowa Power that season, and we had a match overturned that we lost because Hitman got caught cheating. So To be honest, our online season, even with Brax, was probably only slightly better than it was with Anger. So people think we suck with Anger, but we just have never really been that good at online Counter-Strike, especially versus a lot of the American teams. I don't know.
Right. So, besides that, how have personalities meshed? Because I know, once again, this is something that reflects back on an episode me and Hiko did. Obviously, like you personally have been probably known to be pretty loud at LANs and stuff like that. I mean, maybe not as much recently, but I just remember there used to. I don't know if there was or if it was just like friendly trash talking. That there was like bitterness between you guys and Anger at some point in time, or if that was just like friendly trash talk like you would just normally get anyway. So like, was there an issue there that had to be resolved, or have you guys got along just fine, or how has like personalities meshed?
I think it's personalities have been fine. I mean, the thing about shit talking is at LAN is always like it's never really friendly, but at the same time, it's not like everyone knows it's mostly in game, or most people do at least. Like, it's not. You just try to like kind of mess with people's heads and stuff, and like I can tell people before a game like I'm gonna yell at you and you're gonna get annoyed. And even though they like know about it and they know that I do it, they'll still get annoyed from it, especially if they're losing. I mean, if I'm losing, you can't really yell, you know. It's not like get fucked, kids. Like I'm losing like 1 to 12, like there's no point, you know what I mean? But if I'm winning and you yell at someone, it just makes people frustrated. And there's certain people that you can tell get more frustrated than others, I think. So you just pick them. I don't know.
So my point is the chemistry of the team currently just as good or better than it was before the roster change? Like, have you meshed well in like team chemistry, just like knowing how to play off of one another and things
No, we're
like that?
terrible right now. I mean, like, we're actually just really bad. We just never play. Like, Jordan takes like 1 or 2 days off a week for like hockey and school stuff. Then, like, other people go on vacations. Like, they're just consistent. We never play 5 days a week. And like I said, with Brax, we were pretty bad with him too. What saved that team was the boot camp that we had for a week in Sweden. We got infinitely better in that boot camp. We became so much better than everyone else in North America when we went there. And that showed in our results. I mean, we've always been a team that have been able to play versus Europeans, at least like Mihiko and Sean. We've always played well in Europe. And I think that's just because we try to play correctly. And it's really hard to practice playing correctly versus Americans because most of them have no idea what they're doing. And it sounds like kind of mean that I'm saying that, but it's true. And I mean, it's just like if you can't play versus Euros that are doing like Euros are always like advancing their tactics and they're advancing their gameplay, and like you might watch them play and you're not thinking like, oh, that's super advanced. Like a lot of the stuff they do looks simple, but it's not simple. Or like it is to an extent, but the simplicity of it makes it better than doing something really complicated, if that makes sense. Like sometimes throwing smokes from ult mid on Inferno that land in the arch and land in library and they land in big pit to block off Pope or something. Sometimes when they come over the wall and stuff, it's not as good as if you would have just walked up mid and thrown them and then bursted out at the choke points. And I think that's stuff that you learn from playing a lot of different Euro teams because you gotta experience all the different styles and you can kind of take bits and pieces from every team you play. And I think a lot of the time it's just there's not that many teams to play in North America, and they all play generally like really aggressive. And it's hard to practice strats versus Americans because they're just pushing constantly.
Right. So my question would be is how have the roles changed on the team then? Like, do y'all have set roles like you used to? Because I mean, I know in the past that like Hiko's always been your lurker, Sean's always been your opera in game lead, and I mean nothing's always been kind of an entry fragger, and so have you. But then you pick up Anger, who's also kind of known to be an entry fragger, whereas Swag was more of like a utility player. I guess you could kind of use him for anything. So how has that affected the team dynamic, basically?
I mean, we've tested putting Anger first, putting Jordan first, putting me first. I mean, it just depends, I guess, on the maps. Like, you can't always have one guy going first everywhere. So, I mean, it's not always the biggest deal. Try to have it be like me or Jordan generally, I think. But lately, Jordan's been like lurking, like not lurking, but just not going first as much. So I don't know. We'll see, I guess. I mean, I think we've been playing better. I mean, something to also take into account is we kind of destroy everyone in scrims. Like we rarely lose scrims. We just suck at translating it to matches, and I don't know if that's just like sometimes in BO1 CS you just get unlucky, you know, and in ESEA when you're playing a map of the week, you're playing a team that's played one map 35 times. Um, I don't know, they just find little things to get you on. When you play best of threes, they have to remember all their strats and they can't be so like familiar with the map. So I think playing best of threes, especially on LAN, where they have to, where I can veto their best map and they can veto ours type thing, it gives us the advantage, I think.
Right. So once again, going back to Hiko's interview, and this is be like the last time I reference it, is he made a comment that in the short term, the roster change would obviously be difficult and it would obviously hurt, and maybe even I by Power might have a slight edge in the short term. But he felt that in the long run, the team would actually wind up being better than what it was with Swag. Now, reflecting back on everything that's happened thus far, do you still think that's a possibility? That the team will
Uh,
wind up being better in the long term than it was in the past?
um, my personal opinion is that no American teams are going to do good at ECA. I mean, including us. I think the Euros are a lot better than us right now, and I haven't seen anything from my team or IBA Power or any of the American teams to prove to me that we're gonna like place top three. Is it impossible? No. IBA Power beat Titans. We've played well versus Euros before, but I think they're better than us right now, and I think we need a one of our teams needs a boot camp, and we need to play versus better opponents because just right now it's just hard to practice. It's hard to know what's working, what's not, I think.
Right.
And I think even Ivo Power feels the same way, whether they'll say it or not. I notice they don't play as much as Dazed teams are kind of known for. I mean, when I was on a team with Dazed, it was like you played 5 days a week, and if you missed a practice, there was like your head was on a spike, you know? Like it was really serious, and I haven't even seen them playing every day, so I'm not really sure if that means they've kind of given up on practicing. I haven't really been talking to them, you know, that's just me speculating, but I know for us it's hard to find scrims, um, and when you do, you're playing the same three teams, and I'm sure Iowa Power feels the same way. So right now, I don't think we're getting optimal practice to beat Euros. That's my opinion. I don't know.
So I mean, I guess what this question was boiling down to was, is do you feel that your team's potential, like going forward, like let's say things improve, you get better practice, you get a boot camp in at some point, whatever. Let's just say you get what you think you need. Do you think that the potential of your current roster is just as good as what you had in the past when you were, placing top four at DreamHack Winter and whatnot?
Oh yeah, I mean, Anger's really good, skill wise. It was just about meshing with the team. I think our CT sides have always been pretty strong on this team. Even like with Anger, like he's filled Brax's role fine on CT, I think. Yes, we had to switch some spots, but that's normal. Like you can't expect someone to come into the team and play like all the spots that someone else played. Sometimes he's never played that spot, maybe he hates it. But I mean, I changed some of my spots too, so I mean, it's not a big deal. But like um, T side was just what we've been struggling on, and I think that's like that will determine our ESEA success. Will just be with how our T sides perform, and I'd say with Brax and Jordan, like I've said, it's kind of like repeating myself. When we went to Europe and we got all our smokes down, we got all our nades down, we got all our strats down, we had our timings corrected. All that stuff helped us a lot. And it's been hard to run those same strats because when we change some of the rules, you have to think about on Inferno. Like, let's say that before it was like Brax that would come up mid last, you know, and he would be the guy that lurked jungle while we hit A. Well, now it's like Jordan doing that. So that changes, even though we only changed one player, two of the players got changed in the rules. So that means like the flashes and the smokes they throw on the strat that we had already previously done, even though we're only adding one player, two people are doing new things because of the rule swaps, making it weird in terms of like the timings and doing the strat. So we've kind of scrapped some of the stuff that we used to do. because of that, because we don't play enough. Like if we played a lot, there would have been no problem adding anger. There, you know, it would have been like, oh shit, but we just haven't scrimmed enough, and we haven't been dedicated enough to make the change like seamless, I guess.
So I mean, can that be fixed? Like, is
Like
there?
playing, yeah, but I mean,
Yeah. So
uh,
I mean, is
I
that
mean,
is that something you're going to be able to do at some point before ESEA LAN, or do you
all
feel
I'm gonna
that?
say is I'm on every day. It's
I
not
hear you.
on me.
I understand. I'm not saying it was, but I was just
No, I
curious.
know.
But we'll actually get back to
Indirect
that.
attack at my team.
All right, shots fired. But we'll get back to that actually in a second. I have a couple questions about that. But first question I wanted to ask after what you just said is if you look at it on, I guess, on paper, like stats wise. Granted, this is mostly online, which, like you've already said several times, you've always been better on LAN than online. You've only gotten to play one LAN with the new roster, and you could argue how hard that was with how crazy it was. Um, but on paper, when people look at it, like myself or just fans out there, what they'll probably think is that iBuyPower has actually maybe improved since the roster change that they had, at least statistically. And so I guess people would argue, well, they've adapted better to their change as compared to complexity. I mean, is that true? And if so, why do you think that's the case?
Um, it's hard for me to say that they've improved. Like, I want to say like they've at least maintained their old level. They definitely like Brax is definitely a great player. So I'm not I'm not going to say that like he made them worse because he didn't. But to say they've improved by like a lot, I don't think so. I It's not like I'm trying to attack them or anything, and I'm the first one to say that we've been playing really bad. We've been playing below our old level for sure. So I don't know. I think like I said before, I don't think any American team is ready to like beat NIP and Virtus Pro and stuff. But I definitely think they're better than us right now. But I'm not gonna. I think that's more due to us being bad than them being better than us, if you know what I mean. Like,
Right.
if you look at the SoCal LAN, uh, it ended at like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. We played them on Inferno. I couldn't have a Silence Cold or a CZ because we were getting DDoSed. So we had me and Anger and I believe Sean for at least a portion of the first game. None of us had our Silence Colts. None of us had CZs. Everyone knows how broken CZs are. They're fucking dumb as hell. Like, you just aim at someone and you click and they just die instantly. Like, especially on LAN with 3 ping. And we couldn't have any of that. And I believe that everyone besides maybe Skadoodle had all their shit, had all their inventory, because they had been playing versus Mo and Freakazoid's team previously, and we had just had the reset up on the account, so we had to log in like through like a tethered phone that Steel had. So like our inventory wouldn't work. You know what I mean? Like we couldn't select CZ, we couldn't put on Sounds Cool and stuff. And obviously you can be like, oh well, it's just like a Sounds Cool. But when that's what you've been using for 3 months, you know, like it kind of is a big deal in my opinion to just randomly be using the old P250 and the old Colt. Was that the reason we lost? Probably not, but I'm just saying like it definitely is a disadvantage. And then if you take that into account, and then you also take into account that we were up 12-5, and we got ecoed, and then basically we just threw a bunch of rounds. Like essentially, we should have been up 13-5, and if we kept our money in order, we really should have won that game. Honestly, the Inferno won. Dust 2, we probably just got outplayed, but Inferno, in my opinion, we threw that game hard versus them, like really hard, and I don't think their level is that much higher than us. They're a little bit better, I think, but I don't know. I don't think their league's better though. I don't know.
Right. So I guess my point is why does it appear to, like, I guess the community that they haven't struggled as hard as you have with adjusting to the roster change? Is it because they wanted the change they got and you kind of got forced into yours? Is that part of it, or why do you think that it's been a little bit harder for you to adjust than them as far as like roles and chemistry and stuff like that?
I think just the fact that they won like SIVO and they won and they didn't really struggle in invite. Like we lost a bunch of games that we probably shouldn't. Granted, a lot of them are close, and we've lost season every time, even with Brax and stuff. We've always been like an 0-2 season team. Like we've never really understood the map that well. So I want to say that like we kind of have an auto 1-2 losses. Like we're never gonna 2-0 the team on season. Just the way that the timings of the league has worked out. This is the first season we've ever practiced season, like in terms of like played it like as the map of the week. We've been in Europe and like been to other events at the other years that season's been other ESEA seasons that ESEA had season as the map of the week. So I definitely think season adds on to the fact that we are worse than we were. You know what I mean? And then we had some close games. We lost Inferno 16-14 to Manjuma at the start of the season because we had Freakazoid with 0 hours ring for us.
Yeah, that was
Like,
tough.
like it's just like all the combination of the little things just made us look real bad. I think I don't know,
Right.
made us look worse than we probably were. I don't know.
Okay.
And that's nothing against Freakazoid. I love the guy. It's just like 0 hours is 0 hours. No one's coming on with 0 hours and owning. In fact, I think he outfragged me in that game. So there's nothing really for me to say. It's just one of those things, you know.
Right. So my question is leading up to ESEA LAN, there was obviously a lot of pressure on you folks throughout the regular season because it literally came down to the wire on whether or not you'd actually qualify for it because your record at the end of the season was like 8-8, and you wind up winning via like a tiebreaker, I think, to
Oh,
actually.
we knew we had already made it before. Like the way that it worked was like as soon as we beat Never Good Enough and then Iva Power beat U5 on that nuke match that U5 probably should have won because they 14 won them on CT side of nuke, and then Iva Power 14 won them back and won an OT. As soon as that day ended, we knew we were in no matter what. So like the last match versus U5 or
What
XDS or
if I
whatever,
thought if Exertus would have like creamed you guys like 16-1 or something like that, then there was still a chance you wouldn't have made it. Am I
if
wrong?
if they beat Iva Power, it would have been just the
Oh,
winner of
okay.
that game
Right on.
would have advanced. So that game would have been more meaningful. Um, Now we definitely got raped by them. I don't know. It didn't. When you've made the line, it feels different. I think
Right.
like for both teams, like there's no pressure on them and there's no motivation on us. I want to say because like our seed can't really change. Now
Right.
we definitely got raped, so I don't know. Like our season struggled right after the land for some reason, so maybe we lose or cash. Sorry, struggled right after. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Just it's just one of those things.
Right. I guess my point was is like early on in the season though, before you had the guaranteed spot, like coming into your last matches. I mean, was there ever a point that y'all were worried that you wouldn't qualify? I guess is what I'm asking.
We thought that it was hilarious that we kept getting like second chances. Like there's never been a season where like you're we were like 6-7 and we're like, oh, we can still make the LAN, and then every time we'd come on, we'd be like, well, if we just win out, we make the LAN 100%. Then we lose, and then we're like, oh shit, this is kind of bad. Like, how do we make the LAN now? Then the team that we needed to lose would lose also, and then we'd be back in it, and we'd be like, okay, we just gotta win, and we lose again, and we're like, oh god, this is real bad. Then we look and we're like, oh, don't worry, if we win out, we make it. Then we lose again, and then we're like, oh god, we're fucked. And then somehow like all the planets align, and we somehow made it anyway. So yeah, there was some worry that we weren't going to make it. Uh, we definitely got pretty lucky that like the other teams that we needed to beat other teams beat them on the right days, and you know what I mean. Just I don't like it. There was a lot of luck involved for us to make this land. Honestly,
Right.
I think.
I mean, do you think that? And I know that this is like probably a hard question to answer, even if you did have the answer to it. But let's say you didn't make ESCA land. Would that have been like a huge impact on like the team stability at all if you wouldn't have made it? Or do you think you still would have been fine?
Hmm. If we didn't make it, maybe we just try to go like the Austin line or like the Vegas line instead or something. I don't know, but it would have definitely kind of sucked not to make it. Um, I don't know if we would have just cut someone because we didn't make it.
Right.
Uh, I don't know. I've never been a fan of cutting people for no reason, so I definitely think it's usually like a team effort and winning and losing, but I don't know.
Um, I hear you. So going back to SoCal just really quick, like I know you pretty much already discussed most of the situation already, but I guess my question would just be going back to it. Is there any conclusions we can draw from that event? Because I mean, that's really the only time besides the last ESEA LAN that that team was able to beat you on LAN. But obviously, you've mentioned all these different factors that kind of contributed to that. So I guess my point is that combined with all your online results, I mean, does this actually prove that iBuyPower has the edge over you guys going forward, or what?
I mean, the edge in the sense
In
that
the
they beat us
head-to-head matchup,
before,
yeah.
I guess. I mean, I don't think any of us are going to play Iowa Power and be like, "Oh my God, we lost to them last time. This is going to be like." No, I don't
Right.
think we think like that. It's never really been like that.
No, I
Um,
guess like if you go head-to-head against each other at ESCA LAN at whatever point in the tournament, I mean, do you feel like confident that you'd still win? Like it doesn't matter that you've lost to them.
yeah, we can definitely still beat them. I mean, in my like I said in SoCal, we won an OT on cash. That was a really close game. Then probably threw, in my opinion, we threw Inferno, and then we lost on Dust 2 fairly. I mean, I don't think they're so much better than us, maybe slightly, and
Right.
I don't think being slightly better is like that meaningful in a BO3. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. BO3 is like there's so many factors, so many like, are your players playing great? Are people winning the key rounds and the clutches and stuff? Like one round Hiko wins a 1v3 and then it's our game again, you know, just something like that can happen, and that's more likely to happen for us online, I think, anyways.
So basically, on land, it would maybe just be like kind of a toss-up who would actually come away with that between y'all two. You think, or do you feel like you have an advantage?
I don't think one of the others is gonna like stomp one of them like
Right.
16-2, 16-5.
Right.
Possibly if you play like Nuke or something and like you win both pistols just because pistols are so important on that particular map, but I don't think on like Inferno or something you're just gonna see like a 16-2, but
Right.
I think we'll always play each other kind of close, but
Right. So let's move on to some of your other North American opponents that you're going to have to deal with at ESCA LAN. Um, so the next one that comes to mind to me is the Open Equal Free Team or Jumas, whatever you know them by, mediocre gamers. They've had like three different names. Um, Essentially, all we can conclude from OEF is how they've done online because they have no CS:GO LAN experience except Desi and Shroud playing at ETS with like friends or whatever.
hmm
So basically, they're like a huge question mark, which usually leads to like poor initial LAN performances, like if history serves, right?
yeah,
But online, they have actually beaten you every single time y'all have played, except for one map in a best of three for SIVO playoffs in the lower
yeah.
bracket final. But then they beat you the other two maps there. They beat you the one time in the regular season SIVO, and they beat you twice in ESEA regular season. So I guess the point I'm trying to make here uh, is this a legitimate team that you and other teams should be worried about? Like as far as LAN competition goes, are they a legitimate contender, or do you think once ESEA LAN rolls around that it's not going to matter what their online results have been?
Uh, I think they're kind of online personally. They like Drew and Drew and Deeborn definitely know how to like lead a team and stuff, but I can't see like Shroud going to LAN and like owning and like Desi going to like their like all that'll be all their guys' like first big LANs, you know what I mean? And like no one goes to their first big LAN and just like destroys. Like link me to a player that's done that ever. One time, one example. The only person I can even think of that comes remotely close is like Gooks from like SK and Fnatic. Um, like he's the only player I've really seen that I didn't really know who he was, and then he just went to like some events and destroyed everyone. But yeah, I I I, I think they can upset, but I don't see it. I really don't.
So basically, you're not worried at all about your online results versus them. If you met head to head,
No,
you're still fine. You think?
I would love to play them. I would love it.
All right, we'll
I
leave
would
it at that.
prefer it.
So here's my next question. And the only other team that's confirmed, we've already kind of talked about you and I by power. We talked about OES. The only other team that's left is NetcodeGuides, who are the number three seed going in right above you. Obviously, I guess three of their players were mouse pads last season, and that didn't go well for them at ESC LAN at all. Um, are they any better than they were, you think, going into this LAN, then? Or about the same? What do you think?
That team plays like they play really weird. Like if you hit A on a site, there's gonna be like four guys there, and their fifth from B is gonna be like on the way. Like they over rotate a ton. They gamble a lot in terms of like they buy JDM ops 24/7 on T and CT. And as we all know, the op is like it's definitely like really useful on CT, but even on maps like Inferno, a lot of teams they don't run an op on CT and they don't run an op on T. And in my opinion, it's better to five rifle. So they really have to utilize the op for the money to be worth it, I think. And then their gambles have to work. And if they don't, they're gonna get crushed, I think. Just their play styles are just so like it's so like hit or miss, you know, like they really could beat almost anyone on a map the way they play. But in a BO3, I don't think they're gonna be able to continue the luck, if you know what I mean. Like of just over rotating and playing so risky.
So basically, I guess what we can conclude from this is, like, in your opinion, you feel compLexity is probably the number one, number two team in North America going into this LAN as far as LAN play goes?
I definitely think like consistency wise, yeah, we'll be better on more of the maps than most of the teams. To be honest, like I can't be like that certain that we're just gonna like beat everyone, at least out of the Americans, just because we've been playing kind of bad and we haven't really been playing. But we really have to use like Jordan's been at E3 for like this whole week, which is kind of annoying to be honest.
I don't even
But
understand why he's there. Like, I was confused. Is he, like, sponsored by NVIDIA or something? Or is he just friends with them?
well, yeah, he got like brought down or something by for Titanfall, I
Yeah,
think.
that's why I was so confused. But anyway.
I don't know. It's just like a really crucial time that we should have been playing this week. And then the because now when he comes back, we have like a week and a half kind of thing to really like prepare. Because obviously, like some of us are gonna be leaving like Thursday. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to play on Wednesday. Just will depend on what I do for my flight. Cause my flight's at like 6 a.m. So I might have to go to my sister's or something, but we'll see. Just because it's annoying driving all the way to Vancouver, like for a 6 a.m. flight, that means you got to wake up at like 3 a.m., you know? Whereas if I'm in Vancouver, I just wake up and take the SkyTrain there in like 20 minutes. And it's just like, you know what I mean? It's just more convenient that way
Right.
for an early flight. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where I definitely think like the practice time might be our downfall. Uh, which is what it's been this whole season. So if we don't like really utilize the next like 10 days, we're gonna suck.
So with that, obviously you've already said that you don't think any North American teams are going to be able to compete against the European teams at this event. You've already kind of expressed that opinion. Um, so you're basically saying that the top three of the events probably just going to be NIP, VP, and NaVi, if you had to guess. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah. The only way that I think that they do bad is just jet lag. Sometimes Euros aren't that used to it, and if they fly in on like Thursday and then they play Friday, you know what I mean? Like they're going to be jet lagged for the first day at least. They'll feel bad. And jet lag is always something that plays into favor when you're playing on your home soil, you know, because like this is your time slot. You're used to playing at these times, and they're 180ing their entire schedule. So, I mean, that's something we've always had to deal with when we go to Europe, which is why it's nice to go early and have a boot camp,
Right.
because you just get accustomed to food and stuff. So,
My
uh,
question
uh,
is this, is like, besides NIP, none of the teams at NA have ever played head-to-head against a VP or a Navi. Like, the closest thing would be when you were in Quantic and y'all played ESC Icy Box at, like, the Season 13 LAN. But, I mean, that's a completely different roster now with Bialy and Snacks in for VP. And then I don't think you have any experience playing against any of the Navi players in Go. I mean, I know you beat Astana Dragons at Winter, but, I mean, that's a completely different roster for the most part. Um, so I mean, like, is it? I don't really know what to expect in a head-to-head. Like, I don't know how your play styles will clash. I mean, I know you watch these teams. Do you have any idea like how head-to-heads would go if you played against a Navi or a VP?
Virtus Pro are really, really, really good. They have like their strats are on point. Their setups make sense. Their rotates like are really well thought out. The Virtus Pro will be the hardest team for Americans to play versus, I think, because at least with NiP, their style, like they're don't get me wrong, they're 100% the best team in the world, but their style favors Americans a little bit in the sense that if they're playing bad and you're playing good, at least they give you the chance to fight them. You know what I mean? Like they're giving you aim battles. They want to fight you in certain spots, which is just the way they like playing. And I'm not saying that that's going to be like a great a great thing for Americans. Oh yeah, we got to like aim battle NiP, but at the same time, it will be easier for like us and iBuyPower, I think, to play versus NiP than it would be to play versus Virtus Pro, just because like Virtus Pro are going to do a lot of weird things that none of us have seen before just by playing in Europe and stuff. You know, they just have like weird smokes, weird flashes. They have strats that like executes and stuff. I don't know. They just play really smart, I think. I think they're like the most tactical, like the most sound tactical team right now. They kind of took over like the old Titans very
Right.
games lineup, like, but they kind of do similar kind of play style, but they're just smarter about it, I think.
Right. So, what about Navi? Like, how do you feel going head to head against a team like that? A team that's just, I guess, individually skill stacked, but doesn't necessarily have like crazy strategies.
Not Navi will be interesting. I mean, Guardians like got a pretty crazy op, but at the same time, we in America a lot of people love opping, and we have some players that fucking are absurd with op, at least online. And I don't think it will be as hard versus a team like Navi because they rely on Guardian a lot, and we're kind of used to playing versus aggressive ops and people that play weird with an op. Whereas like Euros might be more caught off guard by it, but obviously like he's still insane. He's probably like the best opper in my opinion. So I mean that always goes a long way
Well, I mean, y'all have
when
a
he's playing well.
history of shutting down like Kenny S and stuff like that.
That's what I mean is like
Right.
we're kind of accustomed to people on Inferno picking around mid with an op, picking holes. Like we're used to people doing that because like a lot of like the lower tier teams like their oppers love playing like idiots. Like they love just like oh, I'm gonna push a Dakar on Inferno. I'm gonna push mid. You know they all love like just pushing with an op. So like when we see someone do it in Europe, like Kenny S tries to kill me at mid with an op, like I've played versus it so many times that it's not that unusual. Like I'm kind of ready for it, if you know what I mean. Whereas like you play NiP, you play Titans, they're not really running ops on CT Inferno like a lot of the good teams. Like Virtus Pro sometimes has Pasha op, but even so, he rifles the majority of the time. So I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that Americans use ops more than Euros, so we're kind of just accustomed to playing versus them. We've pretty much experienced anything that could happen with an op, in my opinion. I don't know. So
Right.
I definitely think the Euros, like the Euros that have a sick opera, they lose their sick opera advantage versus us. But their gameplay is not just around Guardian opping, obviously. So they still have
Right.
Edward and Seized and stuff. So
Right.
I don't know.
It's actually
I think I would prefer play Navi out of all the Euros, though. I
right.
definitely think that would be the my ideal matchup.
Right. It's actually interesting because you say that like people would always think that NiP's the better team because they've consistently placed top three at pretty much every event they've gone to, and VP nowadays is kind of doing the same thing. Whereas Navi has had like obviously StarSeries they beat NiP, and so it's like oh snap. But of course NiP's always had issues against CIS teams it seems. So it's like you guys would love to play Navi because you think that's probably your best chance to win. Whereas teams like NiP, that's actually their kryptonite and could be what knocks them out of a top three performance or at least a first place. You know what I mean? So I think like this term will actually be very interesting in the sense that depending on if Navi go head to head with NiP in the upper bracket at some point, like that's actually an opportunity for NiP to maybe get knocked down to lowers which you wouldn't necessarily expect. Um, I mean, how does the bracket play out in your head? I mean, do you kind of see that same thing, or
It's just going to be bad news for all Americans if NIP gets dropped to lowers early. So, I
right,
mean, I think I definitely think that's kind of accurate. Like, NIP has always struggled versus like the kind of the CIS type teams, and was Star Ladder a fluke? I'm not sure. It's one of those things that what I heard from people in Dota and stuff is that the crowd kind of yells things. I'm not sure if it's the same in CS, but I've heard like Star Ladder for like NaVi has been kind of like people get kind of annoyed because like I mean if you played Dota before, you know like Roshan and stuff, like whenever like people are trying to do it or the other team is doing it, the fans will like go crazy and Navi will just know and they'll just like go and like rape a team fight in the pit when then they didn't really deserve to know. That's rumor, so I don't know if that type of thing plays into NiP losing Star Ladders. Whether the crowd has any influence. Like I don't know. I've never been to one, you know, so I can't say. I'm just saying what I heard.
Right.
So maybe ESEA LAN will be more fair in terms of like this will be like a true testament, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I got
Yeah.
you. So I feel like you've already answered this, but I had it next on my sheet, and we've already kind of discussed it. But obviously, right now, preparations for ESEA LAN have not gone well for you thus far because you haven't really got to play a lot, and even when you have, there's not a lot of teams to practice against. But I mean, what about? I mean, are you at least able to get dry running in and stuff like that? At least like going over strats and stuff, like even if your scrims aren't necessarily the best, just to make sure you have your strats down. Or I guess that's been an issue too because players haven't been around vacation and whatnot. Do you foresee in the next 2 weeks that practice will get better and preps will get better for you guys going into the event?
Well, better, or else we're going to be in trouble. So, I mean, I can't foresee a single thing with this team because at any moment someone could just not come on. But, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like when we finally do play, people don't generally want to go over stuff because like if we got on at 6 p.m. PST, like 9 East or something, that's like when most invite teams start playing. If we start dry running stuff for about an hour, then like a team is in a BO, then the invite teams are all in BO3s versus each other. So like dry running then like makes you lose your scrims for the night because no one plans scrims ahead of time like they do in Europe. So we kind of get forced into scrimming almost. I want to say like we could obviously come on earlier and do it, but
Yeah, what about during the day when
uh,
people are streaming and stuff? Could you not do it then, or you don't want to sacrifice to streaming, or I don't know. I'm just like trying to throw out ideas, just trying to figure out if anything can be solved. Because see, the thing is like this problem you're describing. Literally, I feel like is just deja vu before every ESEA LAN or every North American event. It's like we can't get scrims, we can't get practice. People don't want to play
well
against
the
each
same
other.
well it's just because people rely on ESEA. So like the ESEA season ends, playoffs start, everyone's playing. All the teams that don't make playoffs stop playing. They like kill their rosters, start making new rosters, start talking about new rosters. Then the playoffs teams slowly start getting picked apart. You lose scrim after scrim after scrim until eventually there's only the 4 invite teams that are going to the LAN are playing consistently. So you lose the 9 invite teams that normally play, and then you lose all the main playoff teams, and then you lose up until like the only people playing are the 2 people in the main finals, and then the main finals are over tomorrow or
Right.
today or whatever that wherever the hell they are, and then you're left with just the 4 invite teams and the pugs that are being formed because none of the people have anything to play for. So it's just one of those scenarios that it's the same thing like you said, but it's the reason is just because
We get the
ESEA
same
is really
situation each time.
yeah, it's just the same thing, and it's always been like that.
Right.
There needs to be a reason for the invite teams to keep playing like the ones that didn't make the LAN because right now they just stop playing, they take a break, they pug with their friends, they match make, they stream whatever, and they don't play. And if all those teams aren't playing, I mean, if we're not going to play versus iBuy Power or something, then there goes one of the teams, so we can play versus Manjuma or Netcode. So that's fun.
I guess I was hoping that like Iron Gaming and like the Vegas LAN would like encourage some of these teams that are planning on going to like practice more. Has that not been the case though? Like no one
Well,
cares.
XTS has been playing,
Right.
so I guess that has been. I mean, that's been good, I guess, but um, it's just yeah.
So is there a solution to this problem? Like an off-season tournament? Like anything you think that could help? I mean, what would your solution be if you had one?
Um, just more things for people to play for, I guess. Like, yeah, like leagues or anything like that. Like Sivo timing their league to like be going on after ESEA is done, so like it kind of forces teams to stick through. Like, I think you have to have it an online thing because not everyone's going to go to LANs, you know. So
Right.
like you have to keep people playing throughout a league that they want to prove themselves in, and it's yeah. I don't think ESEA can really do it. It's going to have to be some like
Right.
external like force, like Sivo or something. Will have to plan their league around it. But no one ever really seems to want to do that. So
Yeah.
the same problems will. I mean, it's been happening for years. This isn't anything new. It happened in
Yeah.
1.6. It's happened in Source. It's happened in Go. It's not.
It seems like the opposite approach that must taken place, like almost like, and I kind of have like slight insider information on this is sometimes Sivo purposely puts their schedule next to ESCA and even tries to mock the map rotation as best as possible because teams would complain that they had to practice like 2 or 3 different maps for 2 or 3 different leagues at the same time. And so they were like, it was like they were trying to do the opposite of what you said. Like instead of misaligning the seasons to like make something to be played for throughout the year, instead of like timing it to where ESEA playoffs and playoffs and at the same time there's nothing to play for. It's like they purposely do it to make regular season scheduling easier.
Yeah.
So so what's the better route? The one that you mentioned where we should off align it, or the one where it's
I mean that
aligned?
that's better for us for invite players. Maybe it's not better for everyone else. So I mean, like we're a small portion of the community, right? So I can see why they cater to the lower leagues because that's where the majority of the people are coming from. But yeah, I mean, obviously having ESEA end and then Sivo like start or like have Sivo start in the middle of ESEA, that would help a little bit. But even then, people don't care about Sivo as much as ESEA either. So I don't know. It's one of those things.
Yeah, I'm hoping that'll change over time. I mean, it was a big announcement that season 5 is going to be a LAN at was it GXL, and I guess they're crowdfunding a bigger prize pool right now. So hopefully that'll change. And Face It's coming in too, which a lot of people are kind of excited about. There was just like a show match not too long ago with iBuyPower and somebody, I think. And I think they're doing weekly qualifiers right now. So hopefully that'll improve over time, and we'll just have to see, I guess. But I guess now, like the rest of the interview, I just have a few more questions, and it's just basically pertaining to like complexity's future. So, after ESCA LAN, I mean, is there anything else that your team is thinking about doing or looking forward to, or what?
Mm, we kind of wanted to go to the Austin land, but I guess we kind of were too late, so didn't didn't book our flights properly. But so I guess that's out of the question now. But I don't know. I don't know what's after directly. I mean, we'll see how we do at ESEA, and we'll see what happens, and then we'll like decide, I guess, if we want. I mean, there's not really that many lands other than the Vegas line, and I heard that land might not even happen or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Iron Gaming was the next big thing, and then of course Vegas is like I have no idea what's going on with that, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
I don't know if that's like a
Well, then
real
you
thing.
have
But
the ESWC qualifiers in the middle of July in
oh yeah, we wanted to
Montreal.
go to that, so I guess I forgot about that. So I mean,
Um,
yeah,
and then outside of that, I think that's really it on the agenda for now. After Austin's over,
like
uh,
we kind of just wait for like the $250,000 tournaments. Like there's not really much of a point for us to try to go to DreamHack Summer 10,000 for first. I mean, it's costing about that to go there for for
right,
the event. So it's better to wait for the Valve to announce like a $250,000 tournament and then try to use our funds on like a boot camp before and then
right.
playing the tournament because honestly, like in my opinion, I don't see any American teams going to Europe without a boot camp and doing really well. Like I think it's just one of those things that we always fall behind tactically. Like aim wise, Europeans and Americans were not that far off. Just like all Americans really care about is hitting 6 shots. So like we've always been able to like maintain a high level of aim, I think. But the fact that Euros get to sit there with 3 ping online, practice their like 6 sprays, and then like just have like more play styles to play versus. You have some teams that are really passive, some that are really aggressive, some that are really tactical. And playing versus all those teams helps broaden your own horizon of strats. Like it helps you develop new things, or you get ideas from playing people. And in America, we just lack what they have, I guess. And yeah, it's just without a boot camp, I really don't. I just really don't see it. I just mean because like we've had so much success after boot camping. Like we even went with Quantic or Area 51, sorry, for ESWC when we won the qualifier in Seattle. We went to the worst LAN center ever. Okay, Milk LAN. Now, some people may have heard of this story before, but for those that don't, TCK found one of the worst LAN centers in the world. So we go there. We're downtown Paris. It's like right by everything. It's like super expensive all around there. And there's like this little hole in the wall LAN center. You go downstairs. It's like 120 degrees. So hot. It's like you're just sweating. There's like a AC fan. It's like a one person like AC. Like it cools just that one dude, and then apparently does nothing after that. And obviously TCK is sitting there, so he's like wearing a sweater. I'm not even kidding. He's just sitting there in a sweater. We're all just dying. 60 hertz monitors, 60 FPS, Windows XP, spiking ping, and we're sitting there with zero mouse pad room. Like you have like about 10 to 20% of your TCK heavy that you can use. You barely have keyboard space. The chairs are made out of wood, and they're like concaved, kind of like they kind of go in like this, and like they just hurt to sit in. And we're just gaming there for like I don't know 4 or 5 days. We do terrible. Like we lose like almost all our scrims, but at least we got to like experience like how people execute on inner on nuke in their scene, how people take outside. Yeah, we got raped, but we kind of realized like it kind of helped us play smarter in a sense because we couldn't really play aggressively and get any kills. There's no way for us to like 60 hertz monitor, 60 FPS. Like you're not pushing into someone and killing them. Like they're just gonna rape you every time. So you kind of got smarter. Like I was playing behind silo with like flashes out. TCK was playing up in the rafters. Daze was ready to rotate. Hiko's like ramp and Sean was like offing outside. We kind of like got better at playing smarter, even though our conditions were bad. So like, I personally think that boot camps are even important if you don't even have ideal ones. And I just thought that's a good example of like just like even though we were barely even playing CS, we still learned a lot from us, and it helped us place third at that event. Like I don't know. That's when we got third at ESWC. So I don't know.
Right. I take it you don't endorse this LAN center in the future.
They're nice. I mean, the people that ran it were really nice. I mean, it's not really meant for like a professional team to go there, and
right.
It was more like you go there and play like League of Legends and WoW. Like it's more like a casual type thing. You go there, do some like Word documenting, and then print it off and leave. Like it's
oh man,
we did catch some guy looking at porn though.
Nice.
So that's always a plus.
Yeah. So this is gonna be one of my last. Like I have 2 questions left, and then I might ask like maybe a couple of your questions if we have a little bit of time. But I mean, is your roster stability dependent upon ESEA LAN results? Like
No.
in the sense that not in the sense that you would cut someone based on a poor performance, right? But in the sense that I mean, how committed or motivated are people to actually really want to continue competing, I guess is my point.
Let me just say that anger has not been like the reason that we haven't been playing and stuff. Like it's not his fault. So I mean, it's hard to put blame on someone that hasn't really done anything wrong. Just motivation of some of the players, I guess. Summertime does that to people sometimes. I guess it's like not that uncommon for people to want to go out and stuff. I don't know. Like I like even if the answer was like yes, I'm gonna cut Hiko, which everyone knows isn't true. Like I can't say it anyways. So it's just like I don't know. It's just one of those questions that I can't really answer anyways.
Right. And so, I guess my last question before I ask maybe a couple of viewer questions would just be, um, what do you think your outlook is going forward then, based on all that we've said? Like, what's like your ultimate conclusion that you could maybe make to kind of finish this off?
And what like what's gonna happen with my
Like,
team?
like,
Like
what's your outlook for ESEA LAN? What's your outlook going forward? Like, maybe ESWC, maybe another $250,000 cup gets announced soon by Valve. I mean, what is your outlook on all of this?
I guess we'll go to UCA, see how we perform. Hopefully we win. If not, we just have to reevaluate stuff, have some talks with people about motivation. If they want to start playing more or less, like we have to just be realistic. Like there's no point in playing like 1 or 2 days a week. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're not going to be good that way. So we'll just have to do some reflecting, I guess, when we get back and just try to find out like what the problems are. Because right now, I don't believe the problem is like a player specifically. It's just our motivation issues and utilizing the practice and the motivation that we have. I guess I don't know.
Gotcha. So I'm just gonna do a couple of rapid fire viewer questions. 'Cause I promised I would do a couple, but we'll go ahead and cut this in like the next 5 minutes because I don't want to keep you too much longer.
Yeah.
First was like, what's your thoughts on the ESEA Premier League for CS:GO? Do you like the idea? Don't like the idea? What do you think about it?
I think the idea is fine. I mean, I thought there was always kind of a gap between the top six invite teams and the bottom six when it used to be 12 teams. Now that it's nine, um, it kind of gives there's generally going to be 1 or 2 teams in invite that just kind of get wrecked by everyone. That's always kind of been the case. It kind of helps not have that as much with a Premier League, just because you can stick the teams that weren't quite ready for invite into Premier now, and it kind of give them more time to grow. I hope it helps teams stay together more too, because like basically, if there's only I don't know how many teams are going to be in Premier, but if it's only like 10 or 12 or something, then there's some prestige in being in Premier. So like you won't just reband to get because it won't be easy to get another Premier spot. They're not just going to grow on trees. Like main spots basically grow on trees if you're like a good player, like good enough to like potentially make an invite. You're going to get a main spot. You're going to get back on a main team. But in Premier, hopefully it will help people stay on teams and not just die instantly after. You know what I mean? Like might help keep people more consistent.
Right. So a couple more, like some questions are coming in that have actually been answered kind of already throughout the interview. So I would just watch the VOD to kind of get those questions asked. I don't want to keep making Corey repeat himself like 500 times. So that's why I'll kind of ignore some of your questions, so don't feel bad. But one question, this, I don't know if I want to ask this, but it's actually kind of an interesting question. Are you reading chat?
Um, yeah, a little bit.
Pros Five's question.
How far up is it? I just
Not that
ask
far
it.
up. Oh, it's basically like now that you've like gotten healthier and in better shape, has that affect your gameplay performance at all? That's just an
Uh,
interesting question. I don't know. Like it seemed interesting. I never really thought
uh,
of that.
you would think that it would make you better, but in my case, it's kind of just it made me a little bit worse. I think just because I was cutting so many calories that like I was probably a little bit unhealthy in that sense of like let's just say 4,000 calorie Semphis is better than the 1,500 counterpart. And I'm sure once I'm done, like trying to like lose weight and I start eating around like 2,400 calories per day to like maintain, then I will be better because I definitely feel better. I definitely think my reaction time and stuff is improved. I just mean like when you're new to working out and you're new to like running and you're putting a lot of stress on your body and you're eating healthy and not eating enough calories, it definitely makes you grumpier and like more on edge, I think. But I don't know. That's just one of the things like you have to deal with, I guess.
Got you. Like I said, a lot of these questions have kind of already been answered. One question though is, um, I guess maybe and this is not just you. Everybody's been known to do this a time or two, but I guess maybe you're the most vocal about calling people online or like saying that they're not land proven or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, why do you think it is so important that some LAN proven in order to be considered like a good player?
Because I just think it's like people that don't really understand like what it's like to play online. They see some guy in invite like Mozbek with like a .95 FPR, 100 damage around, and they're just like, oh, this guy's so sick. Why is he not on IBA power complexity? Like this guy's so good, and it's just like it's not the same. Like you're playing versus mediocre invite players. Well, some of the teams, you know, and you're stat padding a lot versus like the noob teams. And generally, when you're on like a worse team, you get all your spots you want on T and CT, and then you're gonna dominate. And then you're playing with like optimal. Like a lot of the people that are like really sick online, they kind of play with like 20 to 40 ping in every server, and they just play like so. Like I want to say like they don't understand. There's like loud noise at LAN. You know, you can't hear properly. People are like yelling. There's like people are trying harder too. That's another big thing. Like people are trying really hard at LAN, and you're not just playing one map a week. So there's a lot of different factors that come into like being online or like being LAN proven. And I just don't think it's fair to like just hype someone up that's had like one or two good seasons of invite and never done anything on LAN. It's like that person has to go and prove himself. Like to be honest. Brax used to be super online. We picked him up when he was 13. He went to his first LAN, got a .7 FPR, which honestly, for his age and his first LAN, that was like pretty amazing. But people still thought he was online. We kept playing with him and he became insane. So it's not like someone like Shroud or someone like Mozbek couldn't have been good, but you can't just like assume they're just like these insane LAN players like off the start. Like they will most likely fail at a couple LANs before they like grow into a better player.
Right.
And a lot of them, yeah.
So with that being said, you know, you say it's unfair to like assume people are going to be good just because they've done well online a bit. Like it's unfair to like assume that they're going to be an amazing player, or at least that it's guaranteed. Obviously, you can like say there's potential, right?
Yeah.
So on the flip side, is it unfair to assume people cheat or are awful just because they've done really well online and they haven't had a chance to land yet?
In my case, I don't call people cheaters, but I know other people do think like some people cheat. I always just think if you get by ESA for like more than 6 months to a year, you probably don't cheat. But I don't know. I just think people are really good at home. Like it's one of those things like you're playing with your chair, your desk height, your monitor, your computer. You're used to everything. Like going to LAN, it's all a little bit different. ESA, you have to play with a fucking tablecloth. And it's really annoying.
I agree.
It really is annoying to play with your mouse pad on a tablecloth. When you use a low sensitivity, especially, it moves. Like you move your hand, the whole fucking mouse pad moves, and it's just like frustrating. You got to get used to stuff like that. 27-inch bend Qs at these ESCAs, they're fucking huge. There's just a lot of things that people don't take into account that you have to get used to. You go to an event like ESWC, there's like Dance Dance Revolution just blasting at full volume. You can't hear anything. People don't even walk anymore. They just run because like the whole dynamic of the game changes because you don't have to walk anywhere because no one can hear. So like there's just a lot of things that like some like people on like the IBA Power and us we're kind of used to them, so we can adapt to them quicker. And it's just one of those things that like we kind of like, I don't know. Different people get more mad, obviously, about like some people being online. Like a lot of people in IBA Power on my team think people are online. Just not all of them say it. That's what I'm just gonna say that.
So let's make it a case study here. So Shroud, right? Obviously considered a very amazing player online. He's been to one LAN, it was ETS, and he did like neutral. Like I wouldn't say he did awful, but he wasn't like super amazing and like making people turn their heads or something, you know? Like it was kind of a neutral event. You didn't really gain really much out of it, right? But he gets hyped a shit ton, mostly because he's a popular streamer, and he's actually a pretty cool dude. So I mean, he's just a likable person, I guess, like personality-wise. So let's say he goes to ESEA LAN and he does bad. Is that going to be a fair judgment on like his potential as a CS:GO player, seeing as his competition is EU teams that are really damn good, and he has like no LAN experience?
It just depends on who he plays. Like if he plays your team gets smashed, you can't really hold too much against him. If he plays netcode, gets raped, and goes like 0-15 after he 1v5 them in a match, well, that...
I see your point.
makes more of a statement to me than losing to Euros. I'm not going to judge someone off like getting raped by Nip. I mean, I've got raped by Nip before too. It's not particularly a fun time to lose like 16-5, 16-4. Anyone that loses to Nip 16-5 or 16-2 is going to get raped stat-wise. All 5 players on the team are going to be like minus 30 for that BO3, assuming you lose that badly. I'm just saying, but like I'd more look at like, and I wouldn't even look at stats in general. It's more like how they play. Like sometimes with like someone like Mozbek online, they have like perfect prediction of like how like where people are moving. Their rotates are on point. Mozbek was never the type of player to two bullet you. You know, like he wasn't that guy who runs on the corner, flick two bullets to people. It was all timings, and when you saw him on LAN, he looked nervous. His timings were off. He didn't feel comfortable like doing the plays he normally would, and that means more. Like if you go to LAN and you do everything you did online, but you lose, that's better to me.
Right.
Than
So,
like playing completely different.
so how many lands should we like give a player like Shroud before we like draw a conclusion on what type of player he is? Because right now I wouldn't even really count ETS because that wasn't that competitive since he was playing with friends. So I mean, what do you give it? You know, like 3 strikes you're out. Like I'm just curious because you even said yourself that like the first event that Swag went to, he didn't necessarily do the best either, but his stats were still like okay, I guess. So, like, and obviously you still kept playing with him, and he came back to next lane, and he wound up becoming a monster. So, is it like a similar situation for like a Shroud?
But the thing about with Brax is like Brax used Excel in 1.6. The ESEA LAN computers use Windows XP, and the Windows XP Excel is a lot different than the Windows 7 Excel that he was used to at home. So I kind of tweaked it a little bit to make it similar to how it was on his house, but like it would never be quite the same. So he got a little bit unluckier at his very first LAN that a lot of people don't know about. And I want to say that Brax played almost the same way that he did online at that LAN. He just wasn't confident enough to like hit all the shots and maybe make some of the like the bigger moves that he would have made. So I definitely think if someone like Shroud was to play at LAN and they do almost everything the same, then yeah, they have the potential to like as soon as they start hitting their shots and get confidence to do good. I just don't. I just think there's like, but with people like Shroud, he walks around and like he hits like these amazing one shots, right? Like he'll like one tap like 3 people. You've probably seen it on his stream. He makes it look really easy. People don't hit those shots on LAN. Like look at Scream. He's got like 80% headshot. He's like got like some sick aim. He's not walking around just two-bulleting everyone. You know what I mean? Like Force isn't walking around two-bulleting everyone. Force has sick aim. He sprays mostly. I think sprayers like thrive on LAN, and I that's another one of the reasons that I kind of like write off people that with certain play styles and a lot of like people with weird settings. I don't mean to throw like a ton of people under the bus, but you know, there's some oppers in America that use like super high sensitivities, and you get slightly nervous with a super high sensitivity, and it becomes much, much harder to aim. You know, it's just like there's a lot of factors that come into play when you play at LAN. You know what I mean? And it's just, I don't think like I think people assume like, oh well, if you're good online, you just go to LAN and it's easier because you have 3 ping. But there's a lot more that goes into it. I think at least.
Right. So I'm gonna ask one more question. Sorry, folks, that I missed your questions. I can't sit here forever. You know, Semphis said thanks to two. But the last question I have comes in from No Spoon, and he just said, once you're at a high level like you're at, you're invite, you're performing well. At this point, do you still feel like there's things individually as a player that you can do to improve? Or like, is it a certain point where you've hit like your individual skill ceiling and there's no further that you can go? And if there is more you can do to improve, how would you go about improving it?
Individually, there's always room to improve. People are always getting better. It's like I want to say like a lot of it has to do with your team in terms of like how you improve like your CT sides and stuff, like rotations, like how you're playing around. Like it's hard to like improve just yourself like a ton in terms of like a team environment, but you can always play more, have better aim, like get a better spray, you know, like playing more always is going to help you just feel more natural in the game. Mm. And it's just like you can watch demos, you can watch like a demo of Get Right, see how he rotates on a certain map. You can there's always things you can do, I think. There's always things I can do. There's always things anyone can do.
Like your
it's
aim
not
right now, could you improve it? Like, could it be better than what it is, even though you aren't? Like, okay, here's a perfect example for you. You are regarded fairly, by the way, and I agree with it, as probably the best pistoler in North America, and you're probably maybe this is a stretch, and people are gonna be like, Dustin, you're an idiot. You don't know anything about international CS. I think you're one of the best pistolers in the world. Like, maybe not like I don't know where I would put you. I just think that like your pistol is a force to be reckoned with, and you've proven that on several occasions. Especially, maybe not as much with the Glock, but like every other
yeah, my
pistol.
Glock blows. No, that's that.
But every other pistol,
Yeah,
like your P2K or your USP or your 250 or whatever, it's just nuts. Like you've won so many pistol rounds for your team in international play and domestically. So like that's something you're obviously very good at, and most people would agree with that. Could you improve it more than what it already is? You know?
oh, I could definitely get improve my Glock. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, when it comes to P2000 like USP, I think those rounds just come down to like pure like aim. I want to say because you just have like when you have 3 ping online, it's like obviously much nicer. A lot of people in this game spray, like a lot. So I think since I've always been more of a tapper and I don't really spray as much as other people, maybe that's indirectly buffed my pistols just because like pistols you can't spray them. So like other people aren't really as familiar with just tapping. Like if you watch me stream or anything, like I'm aiming at the head more than other people do. Like you watch Hiko stream, he's just gonna pull down. You watch Get Right stream, he's gonna just pull down and spray. Like I don't as much. I think part of that has to do with I go first quite a bit on my team, so I would rather be hitting the 2 bullets or die than do 40 damage spraying and get killed in the middle of my spray. You know what I mean? Like I think tappers are more, or I think going first, hitting the 2 bullet is more important than being good at spraying. So that was one of my reasons for kind of sticking to that kind of play style. I don't know.
Right on.
Just a little theory, I guess. I don't know. It's not. I don't really go in like pistol death matches and practice them or anything. It's just in 1.6, I always got dropped the USP for like my whole life. Like literally every T pistol, I would get a USP. So that could have also influenced it a bit.
I hear you. So with that being said, we've been talking for about, I guess, like an hour and 15 minutes or so. So I don't want to keep you up too much longer. I know you got stuff to do. But is there any last comments you'd like to make? Any shout-outs? Just anything you'd like to say before we cut the stream and we bid you adieu?
Guess I should probably give some shoutouts to my sponsors. Sound Blaster, Cyber, Power PC, Newegg, Creative, Twitch, DX Racer, Scuff Gaming, and Ponetware. We actually got our jerseys and stuff that we'll have in Texas finally. So they look pretty nice. The hoodies, they're kind of huge on me because I ordered them like 3 months ago, but they're really comfortable. So.
Right on. What about your stream and stuff like that? I noticed you've been streaming a lot more, like 10 mans late at night and stuff like that. Did you want to maybe throw it out there? You're a mod in my chat, so if you want to throw your links in there for your Twitch and stuff like that, feel free. But just, how did you get into it? When did you decide to start streaming, and how do you like it?
I've been streaming on and off for a while, I guess. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I find it, sometimes it's hard for me to motivate myself to stream, like, there's only so much you can do streaming, if you know what I mean. Like, it's like I'm the type of person I'll play like 2 matchmakings or like scrim and then watch like a show or like play Dota. And it's like when I stream, I have to like just play CS the whole time. And if I switch games or something, you generally lose all your viewers. And it's like, yeah, you can, but I get kind of bored of streaming. But yeah, certain days I stream a lot more than others. Yeah, you guys can go there. My Twitter is, oh, I have to log in.
Cole_Semphis.
Yeah, that lets you know when I'm
his
streaming
name
stuff.
on the thing,
yeah,
so that should make it easier.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if other people feel the same way as I do when I'm streaming, but like I would like to stream more. It's just I just kind of get bored of playing CS 24/7 in a row. But yeah, I do plan on streaming a bit. So
Yeah, be sure. I mean, I would say that he streams often, especially late at night, like North American time, doing 10-man stuff like that. Which those are always fun to watch, not because it's just like high school players playing against each other, but they're usually pretty funny too, to be honest. Like when people are trash
yeah.
talking and stuff like
Well,
that.
I know people loved watching me and Sean matchmake together because we
Yeah.
just troll each other the whole time. So
It's almost like lately watching Hiko, TM, and Spangler play together is literally some of the most laughs I've ever had. So, and Semphis,
yeah.
it's similar when Semphis plays with some of the guys he plays with, and they're just like trolling. So it's definitely entertaining stuff, as well as watching some high skill Counter Strike play. But other than that, I appreciate you coming in, Semphis. Thanks so much for the interview, man. Good luck with the ESEA LAN. Good luck with everything else, and I appreciate you coming on.
All right. Yep. Thanks. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.
Peace.